Ms. Ayla Winarto, who will be introducing our webinar this afternoon. Thank you, Ayla.
And welcome to you all. The Indonesian Heritage Society. I'd like to welcome you all to this particular Zoom webinar. And I'd also like to say how privileged we are to be working with Meet the Makers on presenting this series of 10 webinars on Indonesian crafts. Now, some of you may be aware that the focus of what we're doing is to support new avenues to keep alive and to a community which has faced many challenges in this global pandemic. So we'd like to start today's session, and thank you all for joining and supporting this worthy cause.
Thank you, Ibu Ayla. Thank you, Ibu Ayla. The sound may be going in and out, but we hope you can bear with us. To continue our introductions, we hand over to one of the founders of Meet the Makers.
Thank you, everyone, for joining Meet the Makers, Kaleidoscope Changing Patterns webinar series. Thank you to the Indonesian Heritage Society for joining us in this initiative to support the continuing traditions of Indonesian culture, particularly in the field of craft as art. The global pandemic has made annual fairs, the Meet the Makers, impossible for this year, and many artisans are struggling because of the impacts this has had on their craft. We hope that through these webinars, we can contribute to the lives and livelihoods of our partner artisans by continuing to honor their work through these talks. Please know that 100% of your contributions will go directly to the artisans themselves. We hope you enjoy the webinar today. As this is only our second webinar, we are still learning and making improvements for the next sessions. Please bear with us. I turn over to Chrissy, who will explain a few guidelines about the webinar, and she will also introduce our moderator. Thank you.
All right, so to introduce Ibu Dahlia very quickly, Ibu Dahlia will be our moderator for this afternoon. She's a marketing, communications, and public relations leader and active in various fields, in the fields of hospitality, banking, food and beverage, tourism, education, social enterprise, and about 20 other themes that we don't have time to mention. She's an advisor and board member of the Indonesian International Women's Federation for Commerce and Industry, IWFC, and she's also active in empowering people to follow sustainable living for a good cause in many meaningful endeavors. So we're happy, despite her busy schedule, that she's able to join us today as moderator. So I now turn over the microphone to you, Ibu Dahlia. Silakan.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, for the kind introduction. Thank you. So yes, we are going to have this webinar this afternoon. So it's called Ikat Weaving of Savu Island, and is at the Nusa Tenggara Timur, or is East Nusa Tenggara. Okay, so I'm glad to be here among all of you who should be having lots of interest in tenun or ikat. So I am Dahlia Sardjono, as had been mentioned, and I will be your moderator today until more or less 1.5 hours. Okay, so I'd like to explain a little bit what we are going to have this afternoon in this Ikat Weaving of Savu Island webinar. Okay, so we're going to have Tewuni Rai film and history of Savu and thoughts for discussion. 3 questions first, and we will proceed with other questions, the program of the day. Rai. So Tewuni Rai meaning placenta of the earth. So it is about the, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the maker of this movie or this short video. So this video has been created by MJ Nashir, as he is a sociologist, graduated from Gajah Mada University, a filmmaker, writer, and a poet. And he has made numerous films, including Trangsa Ni Tonun, with Sardjono, and he is also one of the founders of the Batang Heritage Society, who also has collaborated with Sardjono again in writing the book Berkelana dengan Sandra, and also the 100th anniversary book regarding G.E. Jaspers and Mas Prinagi, who is in the early 19th century made a series of books on Indonesian craft. So we thank Pak Nasir for his endeavors and on behalf of the MTM webinar series. So let's proceed with the video.
On the island of Savu, the foundation Tewuni Rai, or Placenta of the earth, carries on a long weaving tradition. In Masara especially, the women are renowned for their weaving skills and for the quality of their natural dyes. They create indigo with all shades of blue to black and morinda, mengkudu for the various nuances of red. At the beginning of its history, the Savu society was divided into two maternal lines, each line owning specific motifs.
Nenek saya itu dia seorang penenun, terus ibu saya juga dia seorang penenun, lalu saya juga seorang penenun. Dan nenek yang mengajari saya untuk menenun. Umur 11 tahun, nenek saya sudah mengizinkan saya untuk membuat motif. Selama di bangku sekolah SD itu saya belajar untuk mengikat motif.
Yayasan Tewuni Rai Sabu NTT merasa sedih selama masa pandemik di mana hidup sebagai seorang penenun semakin tak menentu. Harga kebutuhan pokok meningkat, apalagi di Sabu dilanda flu babi. Meskipun demikian tetap menenun, tapi kain-kain tidak bisa dijual karena tidak ada lagi pameran dan turis tidak datang ke Sabu. Khawatir saja ini terus berlangsung lama dan ekonomi kami semakin memburuk. Harapan saya ke depan ada pihak tertentu bisa memperhatikan dan membantu para penenun selama masa pandemi. Karena tujuan utama tenunan Sabu bukanlah menonjolkan segi estetika, tetapi ingin menyampaikan sebuah pesan. Perempuan menenun sejarah Sabu dalam motifnya, karena setiap motif mempunyai arti tersendiri yang diidentifikasikan dengan garis keturunan ibu atau matrilineal. Hingga saat ini, penenun masih menenun dengan alat tenun gedogan, ikat lungsi, dan masih bisa memintal kapas.
Tewuni Rai members know the patterns created by their female ancestors, and they are kept in their heirloom baskets, which include the name of the motif, the name of the female ancestor who created it, as well as her genealogy up to the present day. This very unique knowledge is not found anywhere else in Indonesia. Every pattern has a story and a history that can be dated back centuries. The goal of the foundation is to preserve this exceptional knowledge and keep it and the traditional weaving techniques alive. Tewuni Rai weavers are the keepers of the culture and history of Savu.
Okay, let's continue to hear the presentation from Ibu Iche Dara. She is belong to the 3 generations of weavers, born and grew up in Savu Island. It's a small island with an isolated location in between Sumba and Timor. And she is a mother of 2 boys. Iche belongs to the Lesser Blossoms clan and was raised by her maternal grandmother, Inaga, called Inaga. She inherited from her grandmother the process of weaving traditional Savunese motifs and to respect the meaning and powerful of natural dyes. At the age of 15, she ikated and a men's hip cloth, or known as selimut. And she continued to ikat to pay the school fees. Until one day, she received a private sponsorship in 2007, which gave her the opportunity to continue her studies in economics and finance at the University of Nusa Tenggara in Kupang, Timor. Without further ado, let's just hear her passion for ikating and weaving, which also for her now became an income generator. So welcome, Ibu Iche Dara.
Ya, terima kasih. Kelompok Tewuni Rai, yang artinya Placenta bumi, terletak di Desa Pedèro dan dibentuk sejak tahun 2006. Dengan jumlah anggota yang aktif 20 anggota dan 20 anggota sebagai pengikut. Saya masuk kelompok tahun 2011 setelah wisuda. Menenun merupakan pekerjaan utama perempuan Sabu, sehingga perempuan berperan penting dalam masyarakat Sabu, khususnya pada garis keturunan ibu. Mereka menenun selama musim kemarau ketika tidak ada lagi pekerjaan di ladang dan panen berakhir. Saat ini, penenun masih menggunakan alat tenun gedogan. Dan ada yang masih bisa memintal kapas. Kapas biasanya dipanen bulan Juli dan Agustus. Mereka menenun dan mereka menggunakan warna dari tanaman lokal. Ada waktu tertentu dalam setahun untuk memanen nila dan mengkudu. Nila di akhir musim hujan, yaitu bulan April dan Mei. Sedangkan mengkudu di tengah musim kemarau, yaitu pada bulan Agustus sampai September. Sejak kecil, saya mau belajar tenun karena semua perempuan di rumah menenun. Mereka seperti model untuk saya. Tapi saya mengalami kendala di saat nenek melarang saya menenun karena nenek takut saya akan membuang dan merusak benang itu. Nenek berpesan, sesudah besar baru belajar menenun. Sebagai generasi ketiga dan telah memiliki generasi keempat, saya akan mengajar untuk menenun kepada anak saya supaya tradisi dari nenek moyang tetap bertahan dan dilestarikan. Hi'i lekowe dan ei lekowe merupakan sarung dan selimut pertama kali dipakai oleh anak. Sarung dan selimut ini tidak memiliki motif ikat dan tidak berwarna merah. Hanya terdapat baris-baris putih dan biru atau hitam. Sebelum boleh menenun, seorang anak perempuan dari kecil belajar buat pola dan ikat motif yang sederhana. Namun proses ikat bisa sangat rumit. dan seorang anak boleh menenun. Langkah selanjutnya terdiri dari mewarnai benang yang telah diikat. Warna biru sampai hitam diperoleh dari daun-daun nila. Proses pewarnaan dengan tanaman nila dilakukan sehari hingga 1 bulan supaya mendapatkan warna yang pekat. Kadang-kadang benang yang kurang hitam disimpan dan dicelup lagi tahun depan supaya warna lebih bagus dan indah. Proses pewarnaan mengkudu dilakukan setiap hari selama 1 bulan dan akar mengkudu harus ditumbuk baru setiap harinya. Proses pewarnaan mengkudu lamanya 1 bulan lebih supaya mendapatkan warna yang betul-betul merah. Ini adalah proses panjang yang berlangsung selama berbulan-bulan yang membutuhkan banyak pekerjaan, alasan tingginya harga tekstil yang dengan pewarna alam. Penyebaran COVID-19 tidak saja menelan banyak nyawa di Indonesia, namun juga telah merenggut usaha para penenun. Penenun tidak bisa lagi memenuhi kebutuhan primernya, apalagi tahun ini di Savu dilanda flu babi. Bencana kekeringan yang mengakibatkan gagal panen dan sejak bulan Mei sudah kekurangan air bersih. Jadi, hal ini berpengaruh pada tumbuhan nila atau indigo, tidak tumbuh dengan baik dan pasti hasil pewarnaannya kurang bagus. Dan pasti ada benang yang akan disimpan dan dicelup lagi tahun depan. Kondisi saat ini memang agak sulit untuk mendapatkan beberapa bahan tenun, seperti benang, harga sudah naik. Tidak ada pameran, kain-kain tidak bisa dijual, dan turis tidak lagi datang ke Savu. Yang membuat kondisi saat ini semakin sulit di Savu adalah bahan pokok meningkat. Harga 1 karung beras sekarang sama dengan harga 1 selendang 3 huri. Selendang with 3 bands of motif. Sebagai seorang penenun, saya sangat prihatin dengan kondisi saat ini karena kelompok Tewuni Rai sudah dibentuk 14 tahun yang lalu belum memiliki rumah tenun untuk melestarikan tradisi tenun nenek moyang. Jadi, sangat berharap ke depan ada yang mau berdonasi untuk membangun rumah tenun kelompok Tewuni Rai. Akhir kata saya mau bilang, nasib kami dibelit pandemi. Hidup kami semakin rentan dari jalinan indah yang kami tenun. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you. Terima kasih Ibu Ice. Oke, kita lanjut untuk ke presentasi berikutnya. So, we are going to continue to the second presentation of today. It will be about history of Savu textiles by Genevieve Duggan. So, Genevieve Duggan, she received her PhD in anthropology from National University in Singapore. Her research interest is, among others, Southeast Asia and more specifically Indonesia, and about the ethnography, textiles, and weaving tradition in Southeast Asia. Her current research is about stories, histories, about life histories, and about the cutting edge between history and memory on the island of Savu, Nusa Tenggara Timur. The survey of terminology in Eastern Indonesian language for spinning, dyeing, and weaving processes. Her activities related with Indonesia, among others, as honorary curator of exhibitions in Jakarta, Dharmawangsa, and in London, Horniman Museum. Until now, she's also advising and assisting museums in building collections in Savu textiles. And she's also lecturing in Europe, in USA, in Southeast Asia, and in Australia on Savu-related topics, among others, the textile, social organization, memory, and history. She was also guest lecturer, Spice Islands Cruises, Indonesia. She speaks Bahasa Indonesia. Currently learn Savunese for the daily conversation, and of course French as her mother tongue. Okay, the floor is yours, Genevieve.
After hearing Ibu Ichi about the current situation on Savu, let's have a different look at the weaving traditions. A big thank you to Meet the Makers and Indonesian Heritage Society and all friends who forwarded the information about today's webinar. A big thank you to my Savunese friends who helped Ibu Ichi to prepare her lecture. Everyone knows Bali. Savu is 1,000 kilometers southeast in the Lesser Sunda Islands or Nusa Tenggara. Some slides are old, not because I do not have a large enough choice of material, but because I do not want to see more of my slides turning up on internet or social media, in the worst case, misrepresenting a situation. Some people on those slides have passed away. My friends in Savu, you have no need to be sad. Your relatives are today connected with many places in the world. You can be proud of them. In the village where the foundation Tewuni Rai is located, the ritual center of the district occupies the top of the hill and is under the leadership of the Lord of the Earth, or Deorai. Doing research in this village over decades was a wonderful experience. Seeing these slides, you can sense that people still know the way of the ancestral religions and the rules for weaving textiles. It was very fruitful for me as there are still followers of the ancestral religion there. They are important to me for explaining the weaving tradition. During her presentation, Ibuichi gave you first-hand information about weavers, thus a micro view, sharing some technical details. Now we will look at a bigger picture, a macro view of the rich Ikat world of Savu. Textiles are rooted in history and embedded into social organization. This makes this textile even more interesting than if just looking at them from a technical or aesthetical point of view. The weaving traditions are directly linked to the local of Jingitiyu, which is based on ancestors' worship, through prayers and offerings, through ceremonies which tie, bind, Ikat, the society throughout the year. On the picture on the right, during the Thanksgiving ceremony, Ichi's grandmother receives a blessing from the Lord of the Earth. Savunese seeks things in gendered pairs, not only for humans and animals, but also for plants. Everything is gendered. It is their way of reaching cosmic harmony. For instance, here sorghum, which is considered male, is planted together with mung beans, which are considered female. Complementarities, male and female, are to be found in everyday life and ceremonies, and of course in textiles. The aim is to have a balanced world. Austronesian society have at their origin a pair of siblings, ideally elder brother, younger sister. This can be seen on Savu during rituals, for example at the house of origin, which requires the cooperation of a brother and his sister. Then, when an ancestral house is rebuilt, the sister weaves protective and powerful cloth for her brother, and by extension for the house. The ritual reenacts the brother-sister pair of the origin. Therefore, it is easier for a man if he marries in the same line as his mother. His wife will be able to weave for him as they have patterns in common, and she will assist him in ceremonies. It is also important at funerals and in the afterlife, as people of the same maternal line reunite in the afterworld. We have here two maternal lines you heard about before, these two sisters pair. However, in order to reproduce the brother-sister pair of origin, the elder sister, greater blossom on the left, takes male attributes, and the younger sister, lesser blossom, has female characteristics on the right. These two lines have formed a number of branches. At each branch, a new motif was created as identification of the new group. Some motif could be traced at least to the 16th, 17th, or 18th century. I could trace women through their father, brother, or son in Dutch manuscripts. Note that women are not to be found in Dutch manuscripts. They have no public role to play in a patriarchal society. We have here textiles from the greater blossom on the left and from the lesser blossom in the middle and on the right. We have to consider the piece as it is on the loom, and it is the way a weaver counts. Per half piece, there are 7 dark bands for the elder sister, that's an odd number, and for the younger sister, there are 4 larger bands, even numbers, on the right, in the middle on the right. It is easily visible on the girl's tubular cloth on the right, as she is not yet entitled to have the red color. However, in all cases, the complete sarong has even numbers, thus female characteristics. The color at the middle seams is the primary identification of the two maternal lines. This doesn't show when the woman wears the cloth. However, when sarongs are folded and kept in piles in her basket, it is visible and is of course always of the same color throughout the pile. Let's have a look at a man's cloth. This is a flat rectangle, while a sarong is tubular, circular, which is in the category of female attributes. What counts are the bands of main motif. When a weaver describes a man's cloth, she gives the number of main band of motif. It is in total always an odd number. Here we have 6 plus 5 or 11 bands. That's an odd number, and it is an asymmetrical cloth. The motifs, lozenges, are angular. These are male characteristics. Such a cloth can be worn at ceremony and rituals. I might repeat myself, but however it is important to understand the way Savu people think and how this is expressed in their textiles. On the greater blossom group with male characteristic, we have odd numbers of black bands per half piece, angular motifs, lighter colors at the edges at the middle seam. For the lesser blossom, we have per half piece a larger bands, 4, and round motif and black edges at the middle seam. It is easily visible on the child sarong on the right. These are heraldic historical motifs of the female lineage Winnie Galena. Through male and female genealogies, through Dutch manuscript and narratives, I could identify when a motif was created. On the top left, 16th century, on the top right, 17th century. To an untrained eye, the motifs might look the same. However, they are different. Both motifs on the bottom were created in the 18th century. At that time, motifs were still abstract. Figurative motifs are more recent. We have here a genealogy of motifs. This is how Savunese wrote or wove their history in their textiles. They didn't write using a pen or a feather, but still put markers of time in their cloth. Here we have heraldic historical motif of the female lineage Winijevu of the Lesser Blossom group. The motif Iche is wearing was created by her ancestress around 1650. In Dutch manuscript, I found the name of her son, who was murdered in 1680, the sad reason why this gentleman appeared in records. The knowledge kept by the descendants corroborate what was written in manuscript. This is unusual and this is important. It is a rare knowledge. Where do we have knowledge of such old motif in non-literate society? Savunese also made objects as time markers. We have here a bride wealth bag called kenoto in Savunese. When the marriage negotiations are completed, the groom and his chaperone go to the house of the bride's father, carrying such a bag filled with ingredients for betel chew. In Indonesian, it is called meminang. To chew betel together means to get married. After all present have shared betel, the father of the bride hangs the bag at the male pillar of the house as a reminder, as a proof of the marriage. In a society with no written tradition, this equates to a marriage certificate. The bag is also interesting from a technical point of view. It has a continuous warp, as shown at the picture on the bottom center. The threads of the handle run through the body of the bag, which makes it very sturdy, although it never has to carry a heavy load. This circular weave is only possible with the back tension loom or gedogan in Indonesian. Note that there is no seam. A bamboo needle replaced the shuttle as shown on the bottom left. It is a seamless weave, similar to those textiles found in Toraja and dated between 15th and 17th century. That there is a long continuity in weaving techniques over centuries in Indonesia. The bride wealth bag is the witness of a very ancient weaving tradition in Southeast Asia. Now the members of Tewuni Rai have adapted the size and shape of the bag to modern times, weaving a longer handle and with various patterns, so that it is easy to wear as a shoulder bag, and this can become a Savunese identity marker. The history and the revival of the kenoto bag can be found on open access on the website. In order to sum up this lecture, it can be said that the aim of the Foundation Tewuni Rai is to pass on the knowledge about the motifs, the narratives and the female genealogies linked to these motifs, the techniques and the dye processes to the future generations. You certainly agree with me that this knowledge should not vanish but be transmitted to next generations. The kittens here are happily sleeping on a loom which shows a wonderful example of warp ikat and a rich red color. You certainly understand that the part of creativity for the structure and the motif is small, and they act as identity cards for groups of women on the island. Now, the weavers often reproduce this heraldic motif not on large tubercular cloth, the sarong, or man's hip cloth, the selimut, but on shoulder cloth. Also, with the bride wealth bag, there is an adaptation to modern taste and use without giving up an important element, the specific weaving technique of the bag. This is a difficult balance to keep adapting to the modern world without giving up the wealth of meaning linked to those textiles. The weavers of Tewuni Rai are now the keepers of Savu history and culture. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for everyone for listening the two presentations, and thank you Ibu Icha and thank you Genevieve, Ibu Genevieve. It was very great to know all of those, especially from Ibu Icha, and also about the history and about the continuation and the making of this weaving from Ibu Genevieve. Okay, so if I can just make a short summary. So the weaving is the main occupation of most female in Savu, right? And so Ibu Icha's concern now is that with this situation now, with this pandemic, how we can continue, how the population or the community of Savu, of especially of kelompok Tewuni Rai, yeah, and to continue and to pass it on to the next generation. Okay, so now, yeah, while now is the condition is, of course, we need to survive. Everybody there is also need to survive because of this, the pandemic. Everything is becoming so expensive also to buy for the daily needs, right? So, yeah, and the second one from Ibu Genevieve is also, yeah, it's good to know about the female and the male pattern, the motifs that we'd like to know and to pass it on to the next generation too. So yeah, of course, know the new motif, but we need also to come back, to preserve, and to always have this legacy to pass it on to the next one. Okay, so any questions from Isla Winarto, Pak? Apa anak perempuan zaman sekarang, so are girls in Savu Island now still doing or still would like to do the weaving, or is it already you know, not so important for them anymore like before?
Ya, sebenarnya masih ada yang suka menenun, tapi sangat sedikit. Yang usia seperti saya, mereka sudah banyak merantau.
Okay, so now it's getting lesser and lesser, and the same age as her is already go outside Savu. So merantau berarti tidak berini lagi ya, tidak menenun lagi ya Bu ya?
Akan dengar. Sometimes yeah, they may run to, but then when they come back
so,
again. Yeah, so they can, like Ichi's mother, she was Meranto, so she was working outside Savu, not very far, it was in Kupang, then for 10 years. And when Ichi was born, she came back to the island and she picked up again weaving. So it's not always, everything is not lost. But it is really difficult to get interest of young women. They don't want to have black hands, and you saw those black hands in the video with indigo. In the past, women were proud to have black hands from indigo because it meant they had the knowledge. It is a very secret knowledge. But now young ladies, if they want to do natural dye, they request to have very long gloves, so that they don't get their hands stained. It is a little bit, I think there is a big role of the media to play in those weaving traditions, and respecting and explaining what it is in this textile world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There another question. We're wondering if female tube skirt evolved from rectangular hip wrapper. Are they relevant for folk memories? Ibu Genevieve?
Yeah, some for men, there are not as many motifs as for women. So they are, at the origin, there were two motifs. Both are based on a lozenge, okay? And there are some differences. So for the greater blossom and for the lesser blossom, and they developed throughout time. Some lines, like Ichi's line, or what I'm wearing here, they are also for men typical motif. Okay?
Okay.
Which is just, this one means only branching group, kijanga. So it is for a creation of a new sub branches. For men, in fact, in everyday life, many women in the villages still wear sarong. And the men don't wear the Savunese selimut anymore. They wear the Bugis sarong. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They wear the Savunese selimut, hip cloth, for ceremonies, especially for funerals. And there is a special composition for selimut, a hip cloth, men are wearing at funerals. It has to have an odd number, and it has to be made of two parts with a seam, which is not in the middle because it is asymmetric. So for men, there are also typical, there are some rules, but they are not as strict as for women. Also, because men are to marry in the same line as their mothers, the women carry big motifs so that the men can see from far away, because men are not weavers. They don't understand those motifs, or very little. While for the men selimut, they are smaller, even the men motifs are smaller bands, because the women are weavers and they have the trained eye to see how many bands and how many threads, even on which little colors are hidden between two bands. And they know immediately from which maternal line the man is. But for the man, they need some help. So big motifs for the women.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you follow me? Do you understand that? Okay.
Yeah. There is a continuation from there. It's actually from Kawa. How long does the genealogical memory generally stretch? Usually, no one knows further than grandparents. In addition, can you share anything about mythological histories?
Yeah. So the longest genealogy I have is actually 60 generations, but of course at the beginning there is only a list of names. So the first branching I have is around 35 generations ago, which is already very deep, which correspond to what, 12th century, 10th century, so almost 800,000 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it is remarkable because it is a non-literary society. They didn't write that, but they used their memory and put time markers to remember their history. And that is something typical for Austronesian people. What is remarkable on Savu is not only for the elite, not only for the rajas, the rulers, but for everybody in the society, for men as for women. In patriarchal societies, you have the genealogies of men. You don't have the women. In Savu, you have both. It's why my research was possible, because I had access to this material.
Oh, okay. So now there's another question from Bapak Irwan Yulianto. Can Greater Blossom Clan female marry? Is that his question? Can Greater Blossom Clan female marry with Lesser Blossom male? Genevieve, can you explain the variation of A Ledo, A Raja, and A Worapi? Can every woman weave every motif?
Okay, of course, we have the rules and you have the ideal situation, but of course humans not all humans follow the rules. So if a man marries in another line as his mother, beside the bridewell bag and the beetle shoe he has to provide, they have to pay a price, which they call the bride price, as compensation. So if it is in the same line, there is no price. There's only this beetle shoe, because they say if they marry in the same line, they would make a present to themselves. Yeah, you ask about a ledo. That is the structure of the. I don't know if I can go back to the lecture, or it's not so good to show that.
not so good. I don't have anything to show you here in. Eledo is the typical structure for the lesser blossom with these 4 large bands per half piece, as we saw in the slide. And the Eiraja, in fact, Eiraja means
Raja.
yeah. Eiraja are sarong for women who married with a ruler. And then all her descendants later, even they are not married with a ruler, have the right to wear a sarong with culture. May I go to the lecture, or if it is too time consuming? And that is the structure of a Raja, and these Raja stripes are here. Okay, I give up that because I think you are not following me. Okay, I'm back to the to the floor.
So is that answer the question for the Eiraja El Warapi and Eledo?
Okay, I didn't answer with Evorapi. In my opinion, Evorapi is a development of the Eiraja. Because when women became Christian, is a main religion on Savu, then in order not to offend the ancestors, they changed the structure of the piece a little bit, so that they could go, for example, to church without have the feeling they offend the ancestors, and that is the Evorapi. The main difference is that it has 3 colors in the main band of motif. Not only blue and white or blue and red, but you have white, red, and a mixture of blue and red, which is maroon. So three colors in the main motif. So that is something technical, but it has also historical reasons.
But just wondering, can now everyone wearing them, or the male motif has to be worn by male, and the female motif has to be worn by female?
No, now people want to be free and they want to be modern, and they give themselves the right to do what they want. So we have the rules, and we have what people are in fact doing. Also, for men on the island, different part of the island, there are small differences, but most weavers are now in Mesara for Savu. And I see men from South Savu wearing the motif, even in rituals, the selimut with motifs from West Savu, because they are no longer weaving this motif on this hip cloth with natural dyes in other parts of the island. It's how tradition has to evolve when there is lack of material, lack of weaving.
Any more questions from the floor? Jawa is asking follow-up. Maybe he or
Hi, do you hear me?
Hi.
Hi, great to hear you again.
Are you on Flores or in Sweden?
No, I wish that I was. I'm in West Java, but it's good also. No, I just wanted to check if I understood you right, but you do have oral histories or some kind of narratives that narrate names of, say, mythological pairs or historical pairs. I mean, which stretch back very far in time. This is the question is outside of the cloths. Yeah, you can use the cloths to delve deep into the history, but you also say but you have these oral histories which mention the names which also go at least as far back in history as a parallel here. Yeah.
Okay. So to explain to you, to trace these motifs, I needed the access to the female genealogies and every woman, to the narrative they remember about the ancestors who created the motif. And very often it is a very sad story,
They don't create new motif if they are happy, etc. But if they are suffering, something is dramatic in their lives, they will make a new motif. That is a very interesting thing.
Okay.
Then I had the male genealogies, and I had the fathers, the husband, or the sons of these women. So from the mid-17th century, I have male names in Dutch documents. So that's why I put a trace, some motif very precisely. Besides that, when women are storing their weavings, the heirloom basket, they are storing all these motifs and starting with the first motif which was created, and then the second one and the third one, etc. So it's why I speak of, I say, a genealogy of motifs. And they are genealogies of women.
Yes, yes, okay.
Have I answered your question?
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah, before Dutch time, of course, I just count the generations. I make an estimate. I count for women 22, 25 years for a length of the generation.
Yes, okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joa. Thank you, Genevieve. Okay, one last question is from Kelly Clovers. This is Icha's first presentation by Zoom. So is she prefer to do this like this? She likes it, or better to do it face to face?
Ya, kalau menurut saya sih lebih bagus itu bertemu langsung.
Iya ya.
Karena jaringan di sini, jadi saya kurang dengar sebagian pembahasan ini.
Jauh ya, koneksinya juga kurang bagus ya.
Koneksinya kurang bagus ya.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's about all. So, okay, Ibu Ica tinggal di desa mana, Bu?
Saya di Desa Pedèro, Bu, di Kecamatan Halmahera, Kabupaten Saburai Jua.
Okay, so if there's no more question, I think we can ask Ibu Genevieve and Ibu Ica to make closing remarks. Any closing remarks for this?
From both presentation and the images you saw on the video, you can see that Savu is is as beautiful as it is poor and dry. In a few sentences, Tewuni Rai needs essential means to produce, display, and sell their work. Until now, they have to borrow a laptop. All communications go through each personal handphone. As you heard from her, after 14 years of existence, the group still doesn't have a weaving center, not only to store materials, receive visitors, and display their work, but it could serve as a training center too, teaching how to use a sewing machine and how to make accessories from the small weavings using damaged stained cloth they cannot sell. At the center, they could have basic English classes for the children too. The center should attract children. And answering the question before, but it would be a way to have more children, girls, weaving if they just come to the center for other activities too. Attending an exhibition in Jakarta and displaying the weavings request several millions of rupiah just for the flight tickets, Savu, Kupang, Jakarta, and the shipping of the cloth. So the group needs to sell a lot to cover just the expenses when they go to Jakarta. And this is the reality when living on an isolated island. Let's face the truth. In order to survive and pass on the history and culture of the women and their beautiful handwoven cloth, Tewuni Rai can only survive with some help from you and the friends present today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Genevieve. Ibu Ica, would you like to say something? Sudah? Okay, now I would like to go to Ibu Nia. Ibu Nia, would you like to to show the clothing that you have and that is available in Jakarta, or anybody who would like to know, who would like to see this, and who would like to help do the on top of the donation that's already done. Now I think it's the time also to sell the clothing, I mean the clothes.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, Bu Dahlia, we have a plan and we're working on it right now to set up a website, and we were hoping to have it all finished, but unfortunately it isn't ready to go yet. But we will have it up and running very shortly. And on the website will be a content aspect of the website as well as selling objects. So we're planning to have tours to these locations, the Meet the Makers communities, and we'll hopefully have virtual tours in the short term with the pandemic. And we hope to continue giving webinars. And also we'll have everyone who is in the webinar will be represented in the website of Meet the Makers. We're so thrilled and honored that this week we received funding that will make it possible to do our dream website. And also at the end of the webinar series, we'll have an auction. So people will have the opportunity to purchase the masterpieces from each of the people involved and the communities involved in the webinar. Of course, we normally have a Meet the Makers event every year. And so we hope as soon as the pandemic is over that we'll be able to continue that process. And we'll be sending people further information as we have your email addresses now because of your participation. And hopefully we can inform a greater spectrum of the community about our events. Thank you.
Yeah, after the webinar, so everyone who is joining the webinar, what would you like to do? What would you give them?
So we'll be putting you on our mailing list, and we'll invite you for our grand opening of our Meet the Makers website, which we will be celebrating because it's a long dream that suddenly has become possible for us. So yes, and we'll also communicate with everyone about the auction at the end of the webinar series. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for people to buy some very special objects made by the people involved in the webinar.
So on behalf of the Indonesian Heritage Society, once again, I'd like to thank everyone who was involved in putting this session together. What a wonderful talk by both of our presenters on the Ikat from Savu, the significance. We're very grateful to Meet the Makers for collaborating with us. Particular thanks to Ibu Icha, Tede, Dara, Genevieve, Duggan, and of course to our moderator, Ibu Dahlia, Sardjono. So if you have enjoyed this and you wish to register for the next 8 webinars, please feel free to do that either through our Indonesian Heritage e-news bulletin. Alternatively, you can go to facebook.com/Indonesian Heritage Society or instagram.com/Indonesian Heritage Society, or even send us an email at info@heritagejkt.org. Yeah, that's ORG. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting this very nice. Selamat sore.